All right, so we're doing something different today. As you know, we love new construction, we love luxury real estate, we love development deals, but here's the reality. Most of these deals look terrible before they are repositioned, before they're developed, before they're built. And so today we're going behind the scenes for property that is in Eastern Washington that we're consulting on. It's a really cool multifamily building that needs some real love. I'm gonna show you exactly what we're looking for when we're talking about investment properties, right? When we're talking about multifamily investing, we're talking about development deals, when we're looking for opportunity, this is what we're talking about. So let's go check it out. All right, so first thing you need to know is that this building right over here was built in the late 1800s. Now that's a super old building, even for a little farming community like this, but I'm telling you that the construction materials were just incredible, and the craftsmanship, the work product. It's pretty amazing how well some of these old buildings have held up. And that's part of what we're looking at today is the construction of the building. We're looking at the layouts. We're looking at true potential, how this thing can be put back together, repositioned, revitalized, and then put back into the community as new units to support the community, to support new housing and this revitalization of this downtown area. So we're starting on the exterior here. And as you can see right behind me, does not look so great. But here's where the potential is. This is a 0 lot line property. And that means that the actual lot line butts up right next to the actual construction of the building. Right now, we're looking at this wall right here on the back side of the lot. It looks pretty rough, but you can see that it butts up right next to the post office, which is right next door.
So this is a bit of a problem wall, and you can see up at the top there where the roof needs to be replaced. The whole side of the brick there is holding up a portion of the rafters, and so we'll talk about this more when we get inside, but this wall is ultimately going to come down and be rebuilt from the ground up. And then you can see here
where this fence is, this was actually the original wall, and that's part of the opportunity that we're looking for, because there were actually 3 additional units on this building when it was first built. Those we can actually rebuild and revitalize this whole section of the building and add additional square footage that was originally with the as-built property, and we can add 3 additional units at minimum to this section of the building. So that's gonna be a huge value add play for the buyer of this property. Incredible cash flow value just from adding these additional 3 units back into the building. All right, so we're in unit 1, and it doesn't smell great, but that's okay, because it's all going to get torn out anyway. This one's probably going to be the most renovation besides unit 3. So 1 and 3 will probably get the biggest facelift out of all of these, but it's all intact. It's got a great floor plan. All the plumbing and all of the electrical is where it needs to be, but really it just needs to be cleaned up, get the moist carpet out, get this all cleaned up, aired out, carpet, paint, new kitchen, and it's going to be a great unit. What I love about unit 1 is actually it's a pretty great layout. You really don't have to change any walls here. The whole building is going to get replumbed. Really, if you can keep kind of the structural walls where they need to be, sometimes that's going to save you a lot of money, even if you're pulling out sheetrock, re-insulating, doing all that. Leaving walls where they are can be great. So this one, unit number 1, fantastic layout. Here we are in the kitchen. It's actually a pretty decent sized kitchen for the size of unit. So this will come together really nicely. Obviously there's gonna be new finishes, new sheetrock, new lighting fixtures. The windows will probably get blown out. Probably add a nice picture window that kind of is time period-esque, but really is just gonna pop on the front of the building. So this building, like I said, was built in the late 1800s, which means that the stories of this building are incredible. Right? These units have had multiple different uses, multiple different owners, all sorts of kind of tenants. And actually this one is interesting because units 2 and 3 both share an entry, and they actually used to be a thrift shop. They're going to be converted back into residential units because that really is the highest and best use for this particular asset. It's always awesome to see a building like this get revitalized and then put back into the market, cleaned up, ready to go, ready for new tenants.
Here are units 2 and 3. As you can see here, we've got a door on the left and a door on the right. Door on the right, we're going to go to unit 2.
Yes, it's old. Yes, it needs help, but it's also a multifamily property in the state of Washington. It's gonna have incredible cash flow. So I bet you can't guess the price of this property. Watch until the end to see if you guessed it right. So this unit, it comes with 4 refrigerators and 2 stoves.
I lied.
3 stoves. So again, unit number 2 actually has a really great layout. Not changing anything besides the plumbing and electrical, which is going to be done for the whole building anyway, and then just a cosmetic rehab. That's it. Unit 3 is actually the unit that pretty much sucks the hardest, just to be honest. Here we are in the entryway. There's a small room that's like right off the front of the building, but really it's not a great layout. So we're gonna do a couple of things to really revamp this whole thing. This building actually used to be 2 stories. The whole upper level was taken off when the building next to it actually collapsed many years ago. And so the second floor came off of this building. There is room to actually loft these first 3 units. So that's something that's in discussion right now that we will see how the project turns out. But there's a good chance that you could actually loft these ceilings in units 1, 2, and 3, change the floor plans, and actually add an additional 1,000 square feet that is rentable square footage, which is huge for investors because you can really increase the value of your rental properties by increasing square footage. So that's going to be the second way to actually add square footage to this property. It's going to be in these first 3 units as additional loft space right above us. All right, so as we walk through here, you gotta be careful because as you see right down below, we've got open floor joists. We can't fall through those. But here we go, we're gonna walk through. So here we are at the kitchen, which really isn't that compelling. It's just basically a little kitchen closet. So what's gonna happen is likely the wall right here that opens up to the bedroom, living space right now, that's gonna get blown out and really open up the space, probably push the kitchen all the way to the back end. And that's gonna allow for a much better flow. You're gonna walk in from the street front, have living space, maybe a studio area, and then have the kitchen, dining room, and additional living space in the back. If we even loft that front like we talked about, then this whole space is gonna really open up and it's gonna feel like a really cool like industrial loft with old brickwork. It's gonna be great. Another thing that makes these buildings pretty great is the fact that they're built like tanks. Right? The craftsmanship that was done, 100 years ago is very different than what we see today in a lot of the new construction. And so, as you can see down here, the floor joists are open into the crawl space, but you can see true 2x12 wood construction down there as part of the joist. The wood is actually true to size, which means it's much more robust, can handle much more structurally. And so renovating a building that has quality materials is incredible because it actually holds up much better than some of the construction that we see later on in history that is used and is value engineered. So a lot of these buildings, the masonry, the wood products were much better. So these buildings are built like tanks and they can take a really substantial renovation that revitalizes them and brings them back to life. All right, so the first 3 units are right off the front of the building like we just walked through. Now the remaining units are actually through the last door on the street front with a main corridor that actually goes to a centralized laundry room as well as the other 7 units. All right, so we're about to walk into the abyss here, and as you can see behind me, there's some awesome old brick. A lot of that is going to be tried to be kept because it just adds a lot of flavor and character to these old units. So a lot of that we're going to try to highlight as part of the design features. Really going to make these units pop and give it some character and some grit that really brings back the history of the property. If you remember back to the first part of the tour, there were 3 units that had been torn off the building for whatever reason. So here's the first door that actually leads out to where that next unit's going to be. Once these other 3 units on the outside of the building get framed back up, then this is actually going to be the entryway to that first door right off the hallway. And as we continue, the other 2 units that were going to be built, the brand new construction units, those are going to be off this same corridor here, right in this hallway. All right, so this is where it gets fun. There's actually 4 additional units that are just in the back of the building that were actually rented out until just a couple of years ago. So the building, I know it looks rough from the exterior, but these last 4 units on the back of the building, they're just cosmetic rehabs. So it's just going to be a quick flip, carpet paint, new kitchen updates, and bathroom updates, but really just kind of rental grade quality and as robust as possible. And actually, a lot of the appliances that were just bought a couple of years ago were included with the sale of the property. So it's really going to be a light cleanup for a lot of these units, which just blows my mind. All right, so behind me, you can see the kitchen. It's not that terrible. I mean, obviously it's dirty and needs new plumbing, things like that, but these cabinets are in incredible shape. They'll probably be just painted and kept because they're really just in good shape. New coat of primer, new coat of paint, new lighting fixtures, and sinks, faucet, and hard surface countertops are likely what this kitchen really needs. So this unit looks pretty rough because it does have some falling insulation that's come down from the ceiling. But really, the sheetrock is in great shape. besides a couple little spots. And the kitchen's in great shape. Just needs those countertops, just needs a little bit of love to really bring it back into top quality rental shape. We're not changing the layout. Again, on these back units, these back 4 units, the layout is great. The lighting is actually great. You know, these ones are on the back of the building, so you get great natural light, and then really not that much needs to happen here. Right behind me is the building that we just toured. And here I am standing on some railroad tracks that are right behind the building. And no, I'm not in immediate danger because this railway easement is only used about 1 time a year, and it's just to run 1 rail car through just to keep the easement in place. This property, which is part of the development that we're so excited about, is that we've talked about a couple different ways that square footage is going to be added to the property. The first is going to be by adding those additional 3 units that were originally with the footprint of the building. Those will be built back on, get those additional 3 units, which will probably be about 3,000 square feet. Then on top of it, there's the chance to loft the original portion of the building into the first 3 units that are off the street front. And by lofting them, we'll get about another 500 square feet per unit. So again, that's additional rental square footage that will increase the top line of the property. We always think about what is possible for a lot based on its future potential. So we have the railway that runs right through it, but the property lines actually go all the way up this hillside. There's some additional lot square footage that it's not being utilized that we do have the potential to work with the city to add additional units in the future. Those could be row house type units or maybe just a single family house in the back. So there's lots of options with this property to add value. Lots of different plays going on with this building, which is what really makes it exciting. And on top of that, we're gonna walk through the town here, which is being completely revitalized. All sorts of new restaurants, the brewery across the street, and all sorts of small businesses that are going into this community, which are going to ultimately increase the value of the building. So behind me, we got the skate park here. There's all sorts of stairs, little community built skate park. So that just went in a couple years ago. Right across the street from the building, there is a brand new brewery just a few lots down from the brewery. The building right beside me here with the health clinic was just revitalized as well. So you could see all of the brickwork has been retucked. They painted all the awnings, all the trim work, and that whole space has been renovated and has new businesses there, has the health clinic right across the street. So lots going on in this community to bring it back to its original glory of what it was when the farming community was much more relevant. Now it's becoming kind of a commuter spot for people who are commuting to the larger hubs within the greater area. And this is where the more affordable housing is. It used to be heavily based in farming, and now there's a lot of commuters that are just looking for a small town feel with a little bit more affordability in their daily lives. Again, right across the street, walking across the bridge that actually takes you to a little set of hiking paths, which is a huge highlight for the community. And not only can you go have your beer at the brewery, and then you can go on these little nature hikes that are just right here in the community. It's just a great community, and it just is ready for the next building to be revitalized, just like this one. As we've talked about, this is an investment property, and so the numbers matter. So let's talk numbers. When you get into a project like this, there's always going to be variables. There's always going to be costs and expenses that come up that you can't quite anticipate. It really depends on how many units are going to be rebuilt, if those ceilings are going to be lofted into additional living square footage, or if it's just going to be put back together with the footprint that currently exists. So there's so many different options, kind of depending on where bids come back at. The investor on this property is anticipating putting in about $600,000 to $650,000 into this property. There are going to be about 10 units in the property. Each of them should rent between $900 and $1,200 a unit. There is the potential to be between about $9,000 and $11,000 a month in net revenue for this property. With that being said, what is your guess on the purchase price? I am curious to know. Add it down in the comments. All right, if you haven't commented now, then here it is. The secret's gonna be revealed. This property was purchased for a grand total, including the new refrigerators and several new stoves, for the grand purchase price of $35,000. If you think that there are no deals happening right now, then you just have to start looking for them. You just have to start asking for a deal to be provided to you. That is what real estate brokers and investors are always looking for. Potential, opportunity, just like this one. Part of the reason these investors got such a good deal, the narrative was not complete. It was just a couple of really mediocre listing photos with nothing else. Not even pictures of the interior of the property. Nothing that stated what the potential was. There was no vision created behind what this property could be and what it would look like if somebody were to take the time and effort and money to bring it back to life. We talk a lot about creating a narrative and pricing in one of our last videos, so if you haven't seen that, be sure to go check it out. That is the story of this property. Be sure to subscribe to stay updated as to how the progress is coming and what the final product actually is. So there you go. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next one.